out there in the internet land, or as I used to say, hey, my Facebook friends, but I've expanded to YouTube now, so I guess there's people out there who aren't my friends who are watching the show. But welcome to another edition of Cooking with Cliff. I'm your host, Cliff. So this is, I think, episode 8 or 9. We're starting to get up there. I've worked with chicken, I've worked with fish, I've done beef. Only logical thing left now would be work with pork. For people who know me, or at least a couple close friends, they know I'm not a huge pork or pork chop fan, I should say. Let me clarify that. As a kid, I used to like the little ones, the little fast fry ones. But you know, as I got older, you know, started eating the bigger, thicker ones that are more like a steak size. I don't know, it wasn't for me. Maybe they just the way they were cooked, it was just a little too bland or boring. But then I came across a recipe I was watching on TV, and you know what? I'm gonna be honest. It's not my recipe. I'm stealing it, but I'm not profiting from it, so I don't. I'm not too overly concerned if I get a cease and if I get a cease disorder or whatever they call it, cease and desist order, then I will, I'll remove this video. But again, disclaimer: it's not my recipe. This is my interpretation of the recipe, or at least my hand at cooking the recipe. It's a stuffed pork chop. It's got a few steps involved with it, so I'm not going to show you how to do any side dishes with this one. Side dishes are pretty straightforward. If you watch any of my previous shows, you're going to see a side dish there that you could easily incorporate into this episode. But this has a couple steps. It's still easy, but it's probably going to be an hour in the kitchen from start to finish to get this one going. So let's show you the ingredients and let's get this show on the road. So for this recipe, our ingredients will include, you're going to need some pork chops. You're going to want the thick cut ones, which you can see there, because we're going to make a pocket out of these and stuff them. Now those are the small pork chops. As you can see, they're not very big in size, but they are thick. You could also use, I guess it'd be the center cut pork chops, but either way, you want the thick cut pork chops. And then we're going to stuff them with a combination of sausage. Now we're not going to cook all those sausages, but you're going to need some sausage, and it could be any type. It could be Italian, it could be hot, mild, honey garlic. These are going to be these are the apple sausage that you would normally have at breakfast. Reason why I picked apples, because the stuffing itself is going to include an apple. So I figured might as well pair the flavors. And we're not going to cook them in that state. I'm going to take the casings off, and I'm going to cook the insides, because it's going to end up becoming like a mash that we're going to squeeze inside the pork chop. So there's an apple. We're going to need an onion. We're going to need some croutons. They can be white, they can be whole wheat, they can be flavored. Those ones are onion and garlic. Again, I'm going to add some flavor to it. You're going to need some fennel seed. For the tail end of it, you'll need some grainy mustard, some apple juice. I'm going to add some apple cider vinegar, because we're going to make a bit of a sauce with it. And salt and pepper, and raisins, which I forgot to dig out. But I'm going to throw some raisins into the sauce as well. For your tools, well, you need a frying pan with a lid, or you can use a pan, because there's going to be a stage where you're going to need to cover the pork chop. Now you could do the entire thing on the stove top, or you could throw it in the oven. There's kind of an option here when it comes to the final cook, but for the most part, this will be our tool. And I'm going to throw them in the oven just to keep them warm while I do the sauce. So with that being said, let's get down to business and get the sausage and the stuffing fired up and ready to go. Okay, I'm trying a new camera angle for this show. I'm going to try to get around, the case that I'm left-handed and my hand I was blocking the camera shot. I've got my stove here, my pan. I'm getting it preheated. As you can see, the oil's starting to spit, so it's getting close. Well, it's getting really hot, I guess. So what I've done is I've taken out some sausage out of the casings. There's 4 here. That's probably more than what I need. Let me drop them into the oil. Yeah, for what I have pork chop wise, it's probably way more than what I need. Good thing about this is this, once this stuffing is made, that could be a side dish all on its own. You don't even have to use it all in the pork chop. If anything, you could probably fry your pork chops or bake your pork chops and not even worry about stuffing them. But and this could make a side dish for tomorrow night's supper too. So there's a few options there, but there's about 2 tablespoons of olive oil in the bottom of the pan. Might be a little more than what I might need, but when I was pouring it in, I kind of misjudged it. But there's going to be breadcrumbs and there's going to be onion that's going to be coming in here soon, so I'm sure I'll be thankful that it's there, especially where I'm going to be frying the pork chops in here too. So I'll probably just won't end up adding more oil later on. Now I'm trying to do this without making a lot of noise so that you can still hear me, but basically what I want to do is I want to crumble this up, so I'll probably end up having to do some editing to this, but at this point I'm just going to brown my sausage and then we'll go from there. Alright, my sausage is just about brown. I didn't do a good job breaking it down into smaller pieces, but I'm hoping that I'll still be able to work away at it as the onions cook. So I don't want to brown it completely because then I'll end up overcooking it. So at this point I'm going to add an onion. And basically you brown the onion as well. Get it nice and soft. Now while that's cooking down, what you'd want to do is start getting your apple ready. You could do it beforehand, but if the apple's sitting around, it's going to brown and wilt on you, and you don't want that. You could add lemon juice to it to keep it from browning, but really there's no presentation for the actual apple, so having it brown I guess doesn't really matter, but I didn't want to have it sitting there, and I wanted to look good on the camera, so I didn't want to throw old brown apple in the mixer. But if you're doing it at home, it doesn't really matter then, does it? So I'm just going to cook this down, and while I do that, I'll chop my onion or my apple. Okay, and now my onion is pretty well where I want it to be. Just going to scrape the bottom of the pan a little bit, get pieces unstuck. But I just basically want to get the onion, I guess it's a bit translucent, where you can almost see through it. You can see it's well sweated. Here's where I'm going to now add some of the other ingredients. Let's see. I'm going to want about a teaspoon of fennel. It'll have a licorice flavor to it. A little pinch of black pepper. You can use white. Pinch of salt. I'm going to add my apples. Now, by right, I should have used a Granny Smith apple or something that was a little on the the dense texture type. This was a McIntosh apple, which means that when it's cooked, it's going to actually crumble and break down. It's not going to keep its size. It's not. It's definitely not the best apple for cooking, but I mean, flavor-wise, it doesn't make a difference. But when it comes to actually cooking the apple, it will kind of crumble and break down on you. if you want to actually have, you know, distinctive bits of apple inside your pork chop. Well, this is not the apple you use. You'd want definitely a Granny Smith, or, you know, a nice tough apple. Okay, now we have a pretty good mixture going here now. This is on a medium to a high heat, so I'm going to bring the heat down more to a medium low. And I'm going to add my apple juice, which is about 1/4 cup. And I'm going to just add a little splash of the apple cider vinegar. So from here, you're just going to simmer everything until the apples have softened. Which, by the feel of it, they're starting. I guess I could have chopped them down a little bit smaller, especially where they're going to be stuffed into a small pork chop pocket. But this is fine. We'll just leave this here to simmer. And that'll give me a chance to clean up some of the mess I have started. Okay, you can really smell the vinegar too from the cider vinegar, but I would say we are pretty well there when it comes to having soft apples. And now it's time to add the croutons. Now I'm going to use about a handful. A handful and a half. Again, where I'm only using a few pork chops, I don't need that much, but if I was doing this for a bigger quantity, I would say use probably about 1/4 cup. Now I'm going to stir it around, and those croutons will absorb what moisture is left in the pan. In essence, this is very similar to making a stuffing that you would for a chicken or a turkey. But usually in those cases you're just doing everything in a bowl and then it cooks in the bird. And from here, trying to keep it into little pockets. That way the heat's together, it'll help soften the croutons. Now if you don't have croutons, you could make your own. You just toast a couple pieces of bread. White bread, whole grain bread, don't matter, but just toast it. And then cube it up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a lot of noise. I'm going to turn off the heat. Put the lid on. This will help trap the moisture, and from here we're going to prepare the pork chops. We're going to make a pocket in the pork chop so that by the time this is cooled down to at least a point where we can touch it, pork chops will be ready to go. So let's go prepare our pork.